loved this so much. So we're gonna go have a library day. Yeah, that book pissed me off. Our public library is finally open again after 8 long months. So we're gonna go have a library day. But really quick, I wanna make a coffee. So I'm gonna show you guys what's been like my go-to coffee, because I don't think I've shown you one here. So this is what I've been using. If you know, you know. It is the Nescafe Gold Espresso Intense. I'm just gonna put half a tablespoon in this cup. Like a smidgen bit more, because this cup is not very big, so I don't want to like have a super intense flavor. I take a scoop of brown sugar. I'm probably gonna do like around half a scoop just because I'm like halving this recipe. And then I'll usually use 2 pumps of this vanilla, but I'm kind of feeling a little bit adventurous in trying this pistachio. I've tasted the syrup, but I've not tasted it in coffee yet, so let's do that. Because I don't want to overpower it by any means. The Monin is such a thick syrup that I don't want to overpower the coffee. I'm just going to do a splash of water. Seriously, just like one little splash. Oh, I can already smell that pistachio. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that. A little bit of ice, because I want to leave room for milk. Interesting. You can't have this, no way. Definitely an acquired taste. I have the whole bottle. I gotta try it again. But that, aside from the pistachio, I normally just put vanilla. That's been my go-to coffee. We're back from the library, so I figured I would show you what books that I got. I didn't get a ton. Usually whenever I go to the library, I get like quite a few books, but I have been trying not to put so much on hold because then they just sit on my shelf or on my cart and I don't get to them. And I already have one checked out. I have Briefly a Delicious Life checked out that I would like to read this month. And then I picked up 3 more for myself, kind of. Yeah, for myself. Of course, I got new library books for the kids because they pick out their own books. But then if I see books that I think would fit really well with like whatever theme we're doing for school, or just ones that I thought that they would really like, but I still let them go and pick their own, and then I just pick some out. Found this one. It says Welcome to the Neighborhood, and it's a pop-up book. And I haven't seen like a lot of pop-up books, but they're so cool. Very, like there's a lot of detail into it. They're so pretty. They're so cool. This is probably one of the coolest pop-up books that I've ever seen. And so I just know that this is going to be one that's going to get them really excited. That's so cool. For myself, first one, not like so exciting I think maybe for you unless you're into homeschooling and stuff, but it is the Read Aloud Handbook. And then the 2 fun books that I picked up, we have Lightfall, which is by Tim Probert, and it is this really beautifully illustrated cozy series. I read the first 2 last year, but just the art in this is incredible, and it's such a quick read, and it left us off on a cliffhanger with the second one, so this was like the first thing that I saw when I walked into the children's department. And I just love it. This series is such a cute little cozy one that has just been so good. I just happened to be walking in the, I think it's adult section, and it is A Discovery of Witches, and I've never read anything by Deborah Harkness, but I'm hoping that I can start my journey. This is a pretty thick book, so we'll see if I can get to it. I hope that I can. So those are the 3 books that I picked up for myself, as well as the 1 book that I have already. We are already halfway through the month. I only read 1 book, which was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It was good, but if that's the only book that I read this month, I'm gonna be a little bit disappointed because it wasn't like anything that was like a showstopper book to me. Like, it was good, but it just wasn't, it didn't amaze me or anything. So I would really love to find a book that I'm really amazed by. I still have The Well of Ascension that I'm currently reading. I'm honestly not that far into it. And then I'm trying to think, there's nothing else that I'm currently in. I would really like to read a novel love story or Reckless. I think that could really like be up there for me. I hear a lot about Theo Silva, so I'm interested to meet him. That's kind of like it that's on my radar at the moment, just because a lot of my mental energy is geared towards getting the kids ready for school and everything. So that's a lot of like what I've been doing recently. I don't know if you guys really care about me and my kids' homeschooling stuff. I did dishes and we've had lunch. I have this like massive pile of books down here that I need to put back on the shelf. I had 2 coffees today and I already feel so drained. I've done a lot today though. I feel like I woke up, cooked breakfast, did dishes, did a lot of planning, canceled subscriptions I didn't need, uploaded a YouTube video, made the thumbnails for said YouTube video. We went to the library and then came home and did lunch. And then I did scroll on my phone for like 30 minutes while Enzo was napping. And then I decided I would come in here and film a bit. I don't know, I just feel like I'm playing catch up endlessly and there's so many things that I need to do, but I am not procrastinating. I'm like, what is that, paralysis, like decision paralysis. I can't decide what I want to do, and I'm also just so drained. I might read for a little bit. I might pick up Lightfall just so it's like an easy read and I can kind of knock that off my thing and also feel good about reading, you know. I'm not in a slump, but there's so much that's just going on in my brain right now that I can't sit down and feel like I'm fully focused on a book. I'm gonna quit rambling because I'll just sit here and I'll procrastinate and chat your ear off. I'm a yappa. Time to go and try and get something done. to quickly do my wrap up for July. Let's start off with the DNFs. There were 3 books that I DNF'd this month. The first one being The Water Cure by Sophie McIntosh. I don't know. I thought that I was really going to enjoy this. However, the writing style, I guess, the narration style, just wasn't sitting right with me. Here's what I do is I hype myself up for these books on TikTok because people talk so highly about them, but then I actually go onto Goodreads and I read some of the reviews to kind of get the vibe of like what people thought of the books. And then I end up psyching myself out and I'm like, yeah, that actually doesn't sound like something that I would like. I'm not going to waste my time. There's so many books in this world in such little time. This one was about King. He brought his daughters to this island with his wife, and basically they're in like this cult and they are hidden away from this world. There's no men except for King himself, and then King ends up going missing. And then these 2 men and a boy wash up on shore, and this kind of like psychological game, like tensions and stuff rise between the sisters. It sounded like generally interesting whenever I talk about it. The second book that I ended up DNFing was Night Bitch, and this was another one that I was very excited for and I felt like was really hyped up on TikTok. And again, I went on the Goodreads reviews. Somebody mentioned that there was a very detailed graphic scene about a cat being, and I was not here for that. I get that the main character, like, she is a mother turning into a dog, but that just isn't, I'm not in the mindset for that. I don't think I'll ever be in the mindset for that. So I just kind of, And then the third one that I did DNF was Bless Your Heart by Lindy Ryan, and I didn't really DNF it for any particular reason other than I just wasn't feeling like reading this type of book. So I might go back to that. It might be a little soft DNF. I, again, only got about 20 pages in or so, but I just wasn't vibing with it and I wanted to move on to something else. With that said, we're going to move on to the books that I actually did read, although there's one I did not finish that will be carried over to the next month, over into August. So the first book that I read this month was Dungeons and Drama by Christy Boyce, and I absolutely adored this. It is a YA, and so obviously no spice, none of that. So don't think about that going into this, but I just really did enjoy this. It was such a cute little rom-com, kind of like high school rom-com, coming of age almost kind of thing. It is about Riley. She is just a lover of the theater arts from school. She wants to be a theater musical director. She ends up getting in trouble for taking her mom's car one night without asking, and so her punishment is that she has to go and work in her dad's game store. And by like game store, I mean by like Catan, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic, those type of games, not like a video game store. She is very like reluctantly there. She doesn't want to be there. Her mom and her dad are divorced, and so she just doesn't have a really good relationship with her dad. So she ends up meeting Nathan, and Nathan is really close with her dad, and so her and Nathan start playing D&D together, and then they start fake dating in order to make this girl that he really likes jealous, and it also helps her out because her ex-boyfriend like put her in this situation that just was really embarrassing, and so they fake date, and it is just super duper cute. I really enjoyed it. It was just so much fun. I think I gave it a 4.5 or a 5. I think 4.5. And then I went straight into Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and Ali Hazelwood has just been pumping them out one after another, blessing us with just fantastic reads. This is about Rue Siebert. She is in this company. She is a food tech engineer and has been developing this patent in this company. She's like a very emotionally unavailable type of lady, and one day she just decides that she needs a quick little hookup, so she gets on this app that's like basically Tinder, meets this guy, and they almost do the thing, but then they don't. Next day, whenever she goes into work, turns out that the guy that she was about to hook up with was the CEO and founder of this company that is doing a takeover for her best friend's company that she works for. And so they end up having like this secret relationship, and I loved this so much. This is a man who is completely and just utterly enamored by Rue. In this book, like, they have this strong physical connection, yes, but I also love that he enjoys all of her little quirks. It is the art of noticing. I, like, could be wrong, but this is so, like, autistic coded. She was risen him with the tism. I tell you what, he was down bad from day one. This connection between the two of them was great. A lot of people said that Rue has the personality of cardboard. I didn't think so. I enjoy seeing characters, especially FMCs, who are not like these feisty little critters who always have something to say, always have a snarky comeback, although she does have quite a few. I enjoy seeing somebody who is pretty mellow, because that is how I am myself, and it's kind of nice to see that representation. You know, not all of us are like really quick-witted, you know, some of us are a little bit slow. And then I ended up reading Maestrelio by Gerardo Samano Cordova. I read this through audiobook, and I'm really glad that I did read it through audiobook, because I think if I would have been reading it through just physical, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. I would have found it really slow. It was something that I was able to pair with like an activity, cooking, cleaning, things to kind of just like keep me company while I was doing tasks. And so there were some moments in here where I felt were very beautiful but yet disturbing, in the way that like a mother's love is portrayed and how she's handling grief. And I can't judge in any way, because truly I don't know what I would ever do if I was in that position. I ended up giving this a 3.75, but it is a very interesting story told from 4 perspectives on understanding and coping with the grief of a loss of a child. I have like mixed feelings about this, because I do feel that some parts of it were very beautiful, some parts are very disturbing, which is what it's trying to do, but then as well, some parts were just kind of like unnecessary. Is not my typical cup of tea, but it did keep my intrigue and my curiosity throughout it, so I do have to give it that. I would recommend it. I think it was a very interesting read. And then I ended up picking up 11 Other Words, because I needed something a bit more positive after reading Monstrilio. And for the most part, I did that. And then we got to the 90% mark. Dude had the fastest speed run from green flagged heartthrob to red flagged ick in like 30 seconds. I was rooting for him for so long. But then we get to this point in the book where we finally find out like why they separated, why they were no longer together. And as she came forward to this man with her trauma and her reasoning, he basically was like, that's it. That's the whole reason you didn't talk to me for 11 years, and shamed her and made her feel bad and basically blamed her for all of this. Like, that's so fucked up. And then within like 10 seconds later on page, it was like the next day within the book, he comes back and he's like, no, I'm so sorry. Like, please take me back. Let me take care of you. Da 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 da. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Yeah, that book pissed me off. Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. It's like a theme of like motherhood within these last few books that I've been reading, like with motherhood and grief. Not intentionally or anything. I was gonna do this reading vlog where it was weird books for weird girls, and then I just ended up not doing it. I fell into like this vlogging slump. Not a reading slump, because I was really having fun with reading, but I did have a vlogging slump where I just didn't want to be perceived by anybody. Mother Thing. Basically, like, the premise of this is Laura is the mother-in-law of Abby and Ralph. Abby and Ralph were living with the mother-in-law, and basically it was one of those situations where it's kind of like not mommy's boy, because Ralph did have his hesitancies, if that's a word, and his reluctantness, his reservations. That's the word I'm looking for his mother. He knows that his mother had a lot of issues, but after her passing, he just falls down this deep dark hole of not being able to pull himself out of this grief. And Abby had a lot of frustrations with Laura, the mother-in-law, because she's one of those mother-in-laws that always is very passive-aggressive, not so passive-aggressive, where she's just kind of like talking shit to the daughter-in-law. And always down on her, always has a comment about something negative. And so Abby was just kind of like, hello. And then, like, this girl goes on some crazy ass tangents 1 second. It's like a fever dream. If you like Bunny, you'll probably like this, because the way that this book takes you through, like, this fever dream, she'll be talking about one thing, and then she goes into this sort of situation where she's imagining things. From one, there was this one part where she's talking about how she made this fish, I think it was like salmon or something like that, and she brought it into work, and there was a coworker there that didn't want to try the fish because she wasn't really feeling good. And so Abby is sitting there, like, in her mind, if you don't want to try my fish, you think you're too good for me, you're just so snobby, and I hate you, going on this huge long tangent about all the terrible things that she would want to do to this girl. And the next day the lady comes and she's like, you know what, I'll try it. And she goes, you know what, you're actually not so bad. I really like you. Like, this girl, the way she flips so quickly on this. I know I'm doing a really terrible job of explaining it, but Abby is just a fucking trip, man, to follow her train of thoughts on things and her violent tendencies. And it's like she's become possessed. We only get this insight to her after the mother-in-law has passed. And I don't know, this book takes a really fucking dark turn, so make sure you check the trigger warnings on this. I didn't. So there was some shit in there that was just kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah, and I'll never be able to look at Chicken a la King the same ever again. Swift and Saddled. The Rebel Blue Ranch books is always a breath of fresh air. I love them so much. My only complaint I have is that they're just not long enough. They're so sweet. Such a nice palate refresh cleanser kind of type book. I think they're like under 300 pages. If not, they're like under 320. They're very, very short. Almost a little too short, because I feel like with this one in particular, we just didn't get enough time to see Ada and Wes form this intimate emotional connection between each other. And I know I say that a lot. I didn't have an issue with, like, the spice coming too soon. I think the spice came at, like, the perfect time. However, we just didn't get a lot of intimate moments between them. It felt like a lot of their relationship bonding was off page. And they did have a few cute scenes, but I really wish that maybe they would have maybe bonded over their traumas a little bit more, because they did kind of touch on that very lightly. But I do appreciate this man. He says, I'm not going to say what I want to say because I know you're not here yet, but I want you to know that I'm here and I'm waiting. And then the other one that really got me, that is just so beautiful, is Ada is talking about how she's not like a bright and bubbly personality. She's not a super positive person, like what Wes really needs. And he said, you say you're not nice or warm or bright or any of those other stupid fucking words that people use to describe the sun. But I never asked you to be the sun. I would rather have the moon anyways. And then he said, you're the moon and I'm the tides. You pull me in without even trying, and I come to you willingly. And I always will. And I just love that particular quote so much. Just imagine somebody getting a tattoo of the moon and somebody else a tattoo of the tides, saying that you're the moon and the tides. So cute. Very eager for both Lost and Lassoed and Wild and Wrangled. No. Wild and Wrangled. I think that's what it's called. And then I most recently read Natural Beauty by Leng Leng Huang, and I did read this through audiobook as well. Again, I'm finding that in order for me to be kind of becoming this litfic girly, I do have to listen to them through audiobook. I just find that they're a lot more digestible for me that way. And so this one is about... What is your name? I don't know. Do we ever learn her name? I'm terrible with names in general. I remember that she was given another name by the name of Anna. Our narrator, I guess you can say. Our narrator has been a musically gifted pianist ever since she was a child. Her parents, who fled from China, are also both pianists. So she's grown up with having them teach her at a very young age how to play the piano. And so she goes on to this very private elite school, and she goes there on, I think it's like a scholarship, like a half scholarship or something. She has to go and live there, and she endures this racism. But while there, she is just having like a really hard time trying to fit in amongst this very white-centered kind of school. Eventually she leaves there and she is out into the real world, and she gets this job at this place called Holistic, which is a company that is like, their whole mission is obtaining beauty. It's like supplements, procedures, different kind of things in order to enhance your beauty. I'm like terrible at describing this, but the whole premise of this story is to see what kind of length people are willing to go to in order to obtain the societal standard of beauty. And it takes a very dark and very insidious sort of turn, and I thought it was very, very interesting. Again, check your trigger warnings with this too. Again, I didn't. I'm very bad about checking trigger warnings for myself, so check those. It is a body horror. I gave this, I think, a 4-star because overall it was enjoyable. I did really enjoy the message behind it. This could be a conversation starter for sure if you meet somebody else who's read the book. The last 2 books that I ended up finishing I don't have with me physically, but I still obviously want to talk about them. So the first one was Hot Blooded by Heather Geraud. I was so excited to read this book because I gave Cold Hearted a 5-star. It was one of my most favorite reads so far of the year, which was a werewolf romance based. I've done a whole reading vlog on it and I've talked about it a lot. I just genuinely love that book so much. And then we have Hot Blooded, which was very mediocre, I have to say. I think that, here's the thing, with Heather Geraud, she does write her characters and her romances with not just the romance in mind, and I love that so much. But there's just something about this book that never really hit that spark for me. I never got that fuel to like, oh my god, I gotta keep going. I'm like so obsessed with this. I did enjoy the main male character. He is a vampire, and he is not like your typical vampire where he's just very kind of sly and evil, and he's not like your typical vampire that you would imagine. He is very gentlemanly. He's very much so like all about consent, and I think that is so wonderful. And I also loved seeing the female main character stepping into herself and her confidence and being able to take control of a situation against her very pessimistic mother. And I loved that so much. But the plot between the two of them, it just felt very repetitive. So the way that they end up meeting is that our FMC, really dire need of some money. She is, I believe, like a CNA, but her mother is in really extreme debt, and so she's moved back in with her mother at the age of 30 something, and she still needs more money, so she signs up to be a donor, like a live donor for blood for vampires. So in comes our vampire boy. She shows up to his house, or should I say man, I guess, and they have this agreement where he can feed from her, and in turn she gets a payment every time she goes. Well, ends up turning out that every time he feeds from her, she gets the big O. She has like this special gene or something about her that the venom within the vampire's fangs gets her going, you know what I mean? Anyways, so like right off the bat, it just immediately jumps into like this very lusty kind of thing, which like not my biggest thing, but I'm not going to put the book down because of it. But then it just got very repetitive to the point where it turned out that she would come over to his house, he'd feed from her, she'd get a row, then he would feed her snacks, they'd have a little conversation, and she'd go home. And that, like, was on repeat over and over and over, like, throughout the whole thing of the book. But again, loved her characters, loved the character growth. I just got really bored of that repetitiveness of her going over to his house every single night. That's what made me, like, drop it down so low. I'm still going to continue on with the series because, like I said, I do love her writing so much. And we are going to be going back to Alaska with our werewolf boys. So we're going to see how that's going to go. So I decided to go out of my comfort zone a little bit this month. And I started reading the mystery thriller genre. And I had a good time. I read All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. And that was a 5-star. It is surrounding this mother, again, I don't remember her name, Isabel, has been dealing with insomnia and sleepwalking her entire life, ever since she was a child. She's a mother, and her son has gone missing. He is, I think, like 3 years old, and he goes missing from his crib one night. And whenever we come into the story, it is a year later. And over this past year, she's been going to true crime conventions and just trying to really get the word out in order to get more people kind of on this case. On her way home from one of the conventions, she ends up meeting this man called Waylon, who runs a podcast, a true crime podcast, and they had recently solved a cold case about another missing child case. And he approached her and kind of said like, hey, I'd love to have you on the podcast. Maybe we can help out. Well, after going through some situations, she's like, okay, yeah, fine. And so as she's kind of going through this and getting more evidence and discussing with it further with him through this podcast, she kind of discovers that maybe her sleepwalking and her insomnia that she thought she had put behind her really maybe isn't behind her, and that she could possibly be the reason for the disappearance of her son. And it's kind of like this past and present telling of some traumatic event that happened whenever she was a child to the present of whenever, like, after her son has gone missing, and just how some of those things kind of click and line up together. And it is so interesting, and it's seeing this grief through her eyes, but her eyes, you know, you're not really able to trust the narrator in this situation because she does have sleep deprivation, and she's not even able to trust herself in some of the things that she's seeing and believing. And so she's trying to solve this case and figure out what happened to him, all the while of I don't know where I was going with that sentence, but yeah, it was good. Good. And then the last book that I started to read but I didn't end up finishing because it is a chocolate book is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, and I'm gonna carry this on over into August. I really have not gotten far at all, maybe like the first 3 chapters or so. I wanted to read it a lot more, but I just didn't really have the chance. I was trying to really get my numbers up with the rest of the books, which I did a pretty good job. 10 books this month that I finished. That's all that I read in the month of July. Come back after dinner, get all that situated out, and then we can sit down and chat a little bit more. You ever just look at yourself and you're just like, who is that bitch? Because that's not me. That does not look like me. Who is she? Today is Friday, and tomorrow is Enzo's 2nd birthday party. I use that term very lightly. I'm inviting a couple of friends over to go swimming at a family friend's house, so I'm making a bluey cake. So I just did like the first layer. I'm hoping that I'll be able to smooth it out. It's one thing with like my cakes at home You can tell they're clearly homemade. I do not have the skill of getting the buttercream to smooth consistency. So I don't know if it's my recipe or if I just lack of talent or lack of tools. You saw I was literally using a knife in order to spread it. So probably could do with something like that too. I just don't have the spatula for it. We started homeschooling this week, so I've been a little bit like kind of MIA, trying to get back into that homeschool kind of rhythm and routine. And so far it's going really well. Trying all new curriculums because last year I wasn't really using secular curriculums, although I really wanted to. I was just kind of trying to use what was free to me. If you're not interested in any of this, that's okay, I'll keep it really quick. But we're using like Beast Academy, which is an online thing for math, and so far that's going well. And then I'm also using Build Your Library, which is like history and science and art through literature, and so it's really cool. I'm waiting on a bunch of library holds to come in. The curriculum I have, the literature for the curriculum I do not have, and I don't want to go and drop a bunch of money on all of that without like looking at it first, you know. I have not been reading this week. I don't know if it's a reading, I guess it is technically a reading slump because I just don't feel like reading. But I haven't been reading really much of anything. I read Lightfall by Tim Probert a couple days ago just because I was really sick as well. So like not only was I sick and I was homeschooling and was just trying to get back into a routine, I was also very sick. Like chills, my entire body aching, coughing heavily, kind of sick. You can kind of hear it in my voice just a little bit that I'm still sick. I remember that I left off on the second book with like not a lot of... I had like a lot of good things to say about the book itself, but the ending, I was just kind of like, come on, seriously? They tell you not to do the one thing and then you end up doing that and you screw everybody over. I don't know like how much character growth you can get within one tiny graphic novel like that, but it feels like there just really wasn't much growth between our two main characters. However, I really loved like this little backstory that we got on like the God of Light and the God of Night. I don't remember their names off the top of my head, but it was like this little romance subplot, and that absolutely carried the book for me, and I would read an entire book of just that plot alone. And it's like one of those things that are so devastating, and I just loved it. I loved it. So that was really good. That's really the only thing that I've read. My energy is just like very mellow today, if you can't tell. I don't know. I've had ups and downs about today, and I'm just kind of like neutral at the moment. We woke up and we had breakfast, went to the library, and then went to Target because Enzo's madrina sent some money for him to get a birthday present, so we went and bought that. Did a little bit of cleaning, I did some dishes, and then I took my sourdough out. So that's the next thing that I want to talk about, is my sourdough. While I was in Missouri, my aunt gave me some sourdough, and so I transferred it into this jar because I'm hoping that I can build up the volume on it. I've already fed it once because I've been keeping her in the fridge. Her name is Josephine, because I guess the original starter is called Joe, so this is Josephine. So I've been keeping her in the fridge and just feeding her like once a week, so I've only fed her the one time. But I've been watching a lot of sourdough TikTok, and so I want to start doing like sourdough bagels, sourdough tortillas, and bread. Sorry, I'm like drooling a lot. I don't know why I'm salivating. Try and attempt my sourdough journey again. Tried before and failed miserably, and it was very defeating. So I want to try again, see if I can do it. Let's see if I can successfully make some sourdough. That's something that I wanted to do before I turned 30. I'm pulling her out to raise her to room temperature, and then once she's kind of like raised to room temperature, I will feed her. So I'll probably feed her before I go to bed tonight because I did pull her out probably about 3 hours ago. I can already tell that she's getting bubbly. She's risen a little bit. I can see all these little, you can see all the little bubbles in there. It's a very strong sourdough, but you know, whenever life offers you free sourdough starter, you take it and you make some sourdough bread. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm also folding some laundry currently, just really invigorating things. And then also something new that I wanted to share. If you've been around for like a really majorly long time, you'll know that I'm one of those people that really love to try and do bullet journals, planners, plan with me's, things like that. Like I used to do bullet journaling back in the day, dude. But I really fell off of it. And I think I finally found a system that really works cohesively with my ADHD, and that is the 3-ring binder planner system. So basically, like it's like those really old 90s agenda style planners. So this is what I've got going, where you can open these up and you can change your stuff out intermittently. And if you want a whole video on this, all it takes is like for one person to tell me that they want a video and I'll do it. I swear. You don't even have to tell me, I'll probably just do it. Basically, it's just like a little 6-ring binder system, and I've got these little pockets here. I'll go through that stuff in the video. But I have like my book tracker in here for all of the books that I've read in 2024. And then like my weekly review checklist, my mood boards, my reading tracker, my TBR, my glimmer of the days, and then you get into like the monthly calendar, and then it goes over to the weekly calendars. And this is like the first full week that I've started it, and so far I'm really liking it. It's been really doing well for me. I feel like for me, I struggle with journals and planners because it's so permanent, and I feel like I can never switch pages and I'm stuck in this way. So I like that I can switch around my pages however I need to with this, and also pairing it with an erasable pen. So yeah, that has been like my new system, and I can talk about that more either later in this video or just in this totally separate video. I'm gonna try and finish this cake. Get a lot of it done, get most of it done, just so I have that out of the way, because I do have to start dinner here in a little bit, but I'd like to be able to sit down and take a rest because I have like not stopped. I want to be able to just sit down and like rot for 20 minutes. We'll see if that happens. Library haul, showing you all the books that I got. A lot of these books are from like curriculum stuff for homeschool, but there's also a few fun ones in here. Let's start with, I'm gonna just like rapid fire some of these books that I have for my kids' homeschool. Okay, the reading lesson. I've heard really good things. We're gonna try it out. Then I have cooking class. So this is cooking class global feast. So it has a bunch of different recipes from different cultures all over the world. So I'd really like to pair this with like history lessons and stuff. Tale of Despereaux, audiobook on CD. I don't have a CD player. I'll figure it out. The Tale of Despereaux, physical form. Then we have Heroes of the Government, the stories of people who are helping to protect the planet. To read for kids with dyslexia, so I'm thinking maybe this will help her a little bit because she really struggles. That's it for the curriculum-wise books. I have a lot more that I'm supposed to get. Like a lot more. Now on to the fun ones. So I am trying to get into Lisa Jewell. I've never read anything by her, but I really, really want to. Girls in the Garden sounded really interesting. And then I think I asked over on Instagram, like a poll, not a poll, just like questions of which Lisa Jewell books were recommended, and a bunch of You Said, Then She Was Gone. Did pick up a few Magic Treehouse books. So we've got Magic Treehouse, The Night at Dawn. 2 copies of that one so that my kids could look at it while I read it. And then Pirates Past Noon. So I'm in a reading slump. But I still I feel like I want to read, but my brain just isn't letting me. I did happen to pick up 2 different graphic novels. And I got the first 2 books in the series. So I've never read Solo Leveling, so I got Solo Leveling. There was one webtoon that was very similar, I think, to Solo Leveling. I could be wrong. I need to remember what it was called. I've talked about it on here before, but my brain is just not functioning today. It's like one of these game-based kind of actions where it's not really a game, it's life, and it's either win or die kind of situation. I know that Jody here on BookTube loves Solo Leveling, so I thought this would be one that I could really get into, and it's one of those graphic novels. It is so beautiful. I mean, in the most grotesque way. And then the other one I got because another booktuber here, by far one of my top animes. I mean, I haven't been watching a lot of anime in recent years, but back whenever I was into my anime shit, I was really all about Maid-sama, and I'm so glad that Lachlan from Locke's Library mentioned it in her vlog. This was my obsession in high school. I loved this so much. I even wrote fan fiction for it whenever I was in high school. I loved this series so much. So I am very excited to actually read the manga. I used to read them online from those websites that uploaded the mangas and stuff, and they had stopped uploading it, and it was just a knife to the heart kind of situation, and then I just life went on and I kind of forgot about it. This is one of those animes that I just watch over and over and over. But yeah, that's my haul for the library today. I'm hoping that reading some of these graphic novels will kind of trick my brain a little bit into wanting to get back into reading. Thank you. See? Look at it. Yeah.
I see.
See? Good morning. It's late morning, early afternoon. I've been spending the last 2 days baking, prepping, whatever you want to call it. sourdough bread. I baked it today, but I have been prepping it. I prepped it like all day yesterday. It just came out of the oven, and you guys, for my first sourdough loaf ever, it looks amazing. But I followed this tutorial that I found on TikTok, and it's so good because she goes into a lot of detail from the very beginning of your starter and everything, like the night before, how to be really prepped and what to do afterwards, and it just was a really good tutorial to follow. Sorry, something's in my eye. That's gonna bother me. Hold on. Ha ha ha. Better. So my ego is like kind of up there right now because that was one of my big things that I wanted to do this year before I turned 30 was successfully bake sourdough. And the fact that it came out my first like official try is a big accomplishment for me. It is currently cooling down, so I want to try and get like the crunch on camera. So we might do that a little bit later. And then you saw in the B-roll yesterday, so I am a part of like this Facebook group where it's like my local buy nothing group, and people will just post stuff on there that they no longer want or they're trying to just get rid of, you know, but instead of just tossing it and getting rid of it, you're giving it to people instead within the group. And this lady, she's like, I have a few plants that I would like to give away, so I'm gonna put names in a bowl and I'm just gonna pull out names from the bowl. And I told her like, oh, I would love to be added to this bowl. So I did that on it was 2 plants, and I ended up being the winner of one of the plants. It's some sort of orchid. It's like a raisin pie orchid or something like that. I can't remember the exact name at this moment. It's really long and difficult. And I won. And so I went over, I like had been talking to her the night before, and I was like, I'll be over there early afternoon-ish. And so I texted her before I was going on my way, and then I texted her when I got there, and then I texted her, I like waited like 5-7 minutes, texted her again. I was like, is there somewhere I should look for it? And I didn't get any answers. So after waiting like 10 to 15 minutes, I was like, okay, I'll just go home. As soon as I walked through the door, she messages me back and is like, I'm so sorry. I'll have my husband set up the plant right now. I can either bring it to you or if you want to come back. I was like, to be honest, I just got home, so I can see if my husband will pick it up or something. And then she messaged me and was like, I feel so bad. Here, do you want another plant that I have? Do you want to pick one of these? One was an African violet. The other one was a pilea plant. And I've wanted a pilea plant for, I don't know if I'm saying it right, pilea. They look like little lily pads. They're cute. I've been wanting one of those plants for forever, and I know that they're pretty easy to take care of, and they grow really rapidly. So it's just one that I've like always wanted because I think they're so fun looking. And so she gave me one of those, and I was doing a little bit of research on it whenever I brought it home, and from what I could tell, the plant pot that she gave me was very overcrowded. And so I took that one plant and turned it into like 5 plants. So I just got like 5 new plants, which is honestly amazing. I'm so happy about it. So happy. So I've just been having like a really great weekend. Plants and baking. And then we also had Enzo's birthday party on Saturday. Birthday party. Like I said, it was just like just a few friends getting together and just swimming at a family friend's house. So it was really good. We had pizza and salad. It was Bluey themed. We love Bluey in this house. Adults and children, both. Enzo is obsessed with Bluey. More specifically, Mom, Chili. He adores her. He calls Bluey the show Mum, because that's who he remembers the most. Anytime we read any Bluey books, he gets stuck on the Mom pages. He's just like, Mum, Mum, Mum. He loves Mum. So that's my little mama's boy. We were home all day yesterday, and that's when I did like all of my sourdough stuff, and it just turned out so well. I have all of my plants set up in the office now, and I added them all into their new pots, and I think it looks really good. I'll have to take you in there and show you. I still have to repot some spider plants that I got from my grandma whenever we were in Missouri, because she gave me a bunch of clippings off of her spider plant. Because she's like, I think that these little spiderette things are so annoying. I just cut them off. I was like, hold up, I'll take those. So I have a bunch of new spider plant babies that need to be, I have them in jars right now because that's all I had. And so I need to put them in like a well draining sort of pot. I know I haven't been reading a ton in this. Did I even show myself reading at all in this vlog? I read Lightfall. That's the only thing that I've read. And I am not even sure if I showed myself reading that. It's gonna have like some books in it, but not me actually reading them. Which sometimes that's just how life is. And that's okay. This is my hair when I get out of the shower and then I sleep on it all night. So my curl pattern is like, she's just going right back up in the claw clip. Let me go and show you the plants because they look so good. Excuse the massive extension cord. It's for the growing lights, and I need to like get a different extension cord from the store to hide it and make it look good. But whenever you look at the bookshelf over here, I have them all up. Oh, I kind of need the mic. I have them all up here for the meantime because I have a 2-year-old and I don't want him. These plants, these little leafies, they look so fun to pull on, right? So whenever I'm in here working during the daytime and stuff, and I leave the door open, I don't want him to like come over here and try and pull on the leaves. So whenever I want them to do growing, whenever I want to turn on the grow lights, I'll close the office door and I just won't be in here, and I'll put them all down here on this part of the shelf and they fit perfectly. But so these are like the OG 2 plants. Yeah, probably about 6 months actually. I have this little monstera looking pretty good. There was a stint where something happened. Oh no, I know what it was. I was like, something happened and I don't remember why, but it started dying. It's because my 7-year-old was coming in and watering it every single day without me knowing. And I obviously don't check them every day because I'm like, I have a schedule of how I water them and it's been doing fine. And then I came in and checked one day and I'm like, why is it so freaking wet? I haven't watered it. And then I caught my 7-year-old watering it, and she had been coming in every single day and watering my plants, and I'm like, oh God, please don't do that. I appreciate your help, but it is having the opposite effect. So a couple of these little babies are yellow and drying out, but she is on the up, I believe. And so I'm getting some more new growth down here, right here and right there. So I think she's on the up again. I need to put some more soil. And then I honestly think she might be due for a new replant soon. A repot situation. Because, I don't know, she kind of looks like she needs some more space in there. These roots. I don't know exactly how to finagle it, how it's supposed to be so she can climb up this thing, but I'll figure it out. And then I have this pothos, which used to have a lot more little babies in here. However, they were just kind of like popping out the top. And so what I ended up doing, I need to put more soil in here as well. This plant has fallen over a couple of times, so she's lost some soil. And the roots are exposed. So I gotta fix that too. But, so she had some tiny little cuttings that were just kind of like chilling and were falling out. So I took them and I put them over here. So we've got some in water and they seem to be doing really well. And then also this one, I got this thing here from my mom. She thrifted it for my aunt's wedding, and I don't know if she ever actually used it, for the wedding, but it was just sitting in their horse trailer, and so she told me I could just take it home. So I did. It doesn't have any drainage holes, so I need to maybe get some bits and drill into that. I'm just really scared, so. But it's so pretty. And then this came from, so this was the original pilea plant that you saw. And I mean, look at how tiny this pot is. See how tiny this pot is? So small. It had this one with this little baby, this one back here, which I think has 2 in here, and then this one, which has 3, and this one all inside of it. And whenever I was looking online at like the typical pilea plants and their pots, it was just one singular stalk coming straight up. But whenever it had the picture, they were all like really curved out, and so I could tell that they were really overcrowded. At least that's what I'm assuming. I'm still pretty new to the plant game-ish. So we've got this one, and they're all inside little plastic pots so that they can drain. And then I got this plant pot, like 4 years ago or something, from a metaphysical shop. And she's got little babies in there. And then this is just a soup thing with a little planter inside of it. It's chipped, so I just reused it. And then this is another pothos plant. And then this is that orchid back here. It is a raisin pie. Yeah, I can't pronounce that. But it looks like a little alien. So if that starts to grow, that'll look really cool. And then this one, of course. And then I have more plants in my kitchen. It's a little bit noisier out here because my kids and stuff are out here, so I apologize if you can't hear me all that well. But, so, I told you that my grandma gave me some spider plants. So we have spider plants number 1. I need to repot them. I just really needed to get them in some dirt, and I didn't have pot situations, so that's just what I made do with. I'll eventually put them in bigger pots. And then I have this snake plant here, which was a part of a bigger pot. It had this one and a few other ones. Has been growing super well. It was a house, like, welcoming plant, housewarming plant. This pothos here, which actually is from my pothos that I had before I hit like a really bad bout of depression. I actually just stuck it in some water, and I like stuck it up here in this water thing, and I've had that since, I want to say like 6 years ago or something. I hit like a really bad bout of depression due to health stuff, and I stuck it in this little plant pot, and it's coming back to life. It was literally just like this little nub right here and had, I think, maybe 2 leaves. So she's finally coming back. And this was one of my favorite coffee mugs. And then my husband was doing dishes and it fell off of our coffee mug rack. And so I just turned it into a planter. Trying to, reduce reuse, And then over here is like my little propagation station, and like, this is what that other one looks like. I should really be putting that in soil too, and I'm sure it'll take off really great. This is the other snake plant that was in the same pot as the other one. I didn't have another pot for these little babies, and so I just stuck it in this little skull head, little mini jack-o'-lantern thing from my kid's Halloween last year. And I love it in there so much. It looks like he has hair coming out of his skull. I adore it. And I kind of don't want to take it out. Like, I know it needs to come out because it's grown so much since it's been in here. It's literally just in water, but it has so much growth to it. So it's going to need to come out. But I just love the way that it looks. And then over here are some more spider plants from my grandma. These are the ones that I said I put in jars. And I like that they're in glass jars because I can see like the level of dryness or wetness to the soil. But they don't have draining holes, so I just try not to overwater them. And then in here is actually a jar that my grandma gave me. She has a burro's tail, and so I'm trying to get this to take off Her burrow's tail plant is magnificent and so big. She has this beautiful sunroom. I have this other spider plant up here, which whenever I put it in a couple weeks ago, it did not have any roots at all. So that's doing really well and will need to be transferred into a pot too. And then last but not least, I have this cactus here, which is from my dad. Yeah, that's the little plant tour. That's what I've got going on right now. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've forgotten aside from the sourdough cracking. We will get to that. I'm letting the bread cool down. I think the first one is ready. It's so beautiful, I don't want to cut into it. I just want to thank you so much for being here and sticking with me through all the inconsistencies, these seasons of my life. I just appreciate you being here and hanging out with me, and I look forward to this new journey, this new season of life that I'm entering. And just like even you guys just mentioning me just is like, me? Little old me? What? Stop. I'm gonna go before I embarrass myself any further because honestly that's where it's headed. So I'm gonna leave you with some sourdough bread ASMR crackling. Enjoy that. I know I will. Have a beautiful day. Stay excellent. Bye.